Hello, YouTube world. My name is Joe Pilla, and this is my friend Rich Sands. Say hi, Rich.
Hello.
And we're going to have our own little pop culture monger channel where we're going to talk about movies and TV and sports and things that just we like. So, first thing we're going to do in this short little video is talk about movies, and the ones that appeal to us, well, me mostly, is the new gay movies that are out. So, Rich, what is your favorite new gay movie?
Well, I was really partial to Call Me By Your Name. I mean, it really struck a chord with me. It was very powerful, well acted, and beautiful film. Was happy to see it get a few Oscar nominations and win the Oscar for adapted screenplay.
Yes.
But it wasn't a huge commercial success.
Right. But you did read the book.
I did read the book before I saw the movie, and
I bought the book before they changed the cover, and I feel very upset that I have a book without Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet on the cover.
But you have this.
Yes, I do have this, and we also are following Timothée Chalamet CN, fans of Timothée Chalamet, and all things Timothée Chalamet on Instagram, and we are grown men, but he's an actor, and we are fans. But I think one of the things we loved about this movie was that it was weighty, and it was significant, it was award-worthy, as we hoped, but it also was a story we hadn't really seen before. And what I liked about it so much was it took the time to really tell the story. And even though Armie Hammer's character was in his early 20s and the boy was 17, there was no oddness to it because they took their time and you saw the connection and you saw them just kind of not like each other because, opposites attract, and they were annoyed with one another over time, and then they just kind of blossomed.
Right, and it was a gay movie that wasn't in the shadow of gay bashing or homophobia or the AIDS crisis, even though it was set in the 80s. It was just a pure romance between these two young men. And obviously the fact that they were gay meant that it had to develop at a slower pace than a traditional heterosexual romance, but that kind of added to the anticipation and made it even more sweet when they finally did get together.
What would be the word? Consummate?
Consummate.
Yes, that is the
when
word.
things got peachy.
Yes. Oh, that was really funny. If you saw the movie, you'll get that joke. And I also thought what was really nice about it was the relationship that the Elio character had with his parents. And there's a very famous scene now with the dad at the end where he talks about his experiences when he was younger and really and truly understanding the character. And you watch that, and one of the things I said to parents that I know is that scene at the end of the movie can make you a better parent, because when you're faced with a situation that maybe you weren't expecting to have your child engage in, the surprise component is going to be a factor, but also the support component. And they do it so beautifully that it just brings the film and the quality of the film to another level where it has impact in kind of a more mainstream way, which brings us to our second movie, which is also based on a book, Love, Simon, which I also purchased but did not read yet. And I guess the original title is Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda. I think Love, Simon's a better title. And this movie is really interesting because it takes on a coming out story of a young teenager in high school, and it's done in a different tone. It's not, in the middle of Europe in the summer. It's during the school year, and I think it's California. It's probably California. I don't even know if they say where it is, but it's not New York City.
I actually think it's in Atlanta. Because the father at one point, Josh Duhamel playing the father, which is taking some time to get used to.
Would you need some water break on that one?
Is wearing a University of Georgia football T-shirt in one scene. So,
and the parents were high school sweethearts. Like, yeah, there's a line about the cheerleader and the football player marrying and never getting ugly and old.
Right.
Something to that effect. I only saw it twice. I should know that by heart. But what this movie does really well is it kind of reinterprets the John Hughes type of movies from the 80s and uses and includes a subject matter that's completely gay friendly and in a mass market, mass media manner that makes it acceptable to parents and teens across the country. And we've had some conversations with people we know who felt that it was perhaps too light. And my comment was, does everything have to be Call Me By Your Name?
Exactly.
Or like Angels in America?
Right, and I think that's It's definitely had some detractors, and I'm going to use a quote here from a dialogue that the guys who do the La Culturistas podcast, they had a conversation on vulture.com about whether we have to love Simon. And one of the quotes one of the guys said is, "It's vanilla and accessible, and maybe that's exactly what it needed to be. No one's pretending this is Call Me By Your Name."
Right.
And I think for a major studio film that's targeted at teenagers and younger than that and their families, for it to get a broad audience, this is a great first step. Of course, we wish that this movie had been made 30 years ago when we were going through this. But
I'm sorry. Did you not know we were gay? We just kind of threw that in.
Exactly.
Like, I like the segue.
Yeah, but it's a great start, and it's a feel-good movie, and I'm very happy to see that it's doing well at the box office. And in fact, in just 2 weeks, it's done far out earned Call Me By Your Name, which has been out since the fall.
Right.
So that just shows you right there about the commercial viability of a movie like this.
And I think one of the things that it's picking up on this trend we saw a couple years ago with Hidden Figures, and we saw it a little bit with Black Panther, is that people are so enthusiastic about the film, like Matt Bomer and Gregor Berlanti, the director, and his husband, who's a retired
soccer player, Robbie Rogers.
And then there was another person, Neil Patrick Harris. They're renting out theaters in
Kristen
their hometowns.
Bell did one too.
She is too cool.
Yeah.
I didn't think I used to like her when she was on that show where she was like little
Veronica Mars.
You know, she was like Brenda Starr with blonde hair. But I have to say, she is really good in another show.
Brenda Starr with blonde hair.
It's the second Brenda Starr reference I've made today.
That tells you all you need to know about Joe Pillow.
Okay, so we love the movie. We're happy that both of them were made, and we're going to support them everywhere we can. With that, I think we're going to close this video and go to a new one with another subject, because we don't want to wear out our welcome. Don't do that. That's not pretty.
Okay, and we're back, and the next segment, we're going to talk about Ryan Murphy. Joe, I know he's someone you're a big fan of his work, all the shows he's done for Fox and FX. He has a new deal coming up, and he recently moderated a panel at Paley Fest in LA that got you thinking and raising some questions, so tell us about that.
Yeah, well, he interviewed Barbra Streisand the opening night of the Paley Fest, which is basically a whole bunch of conferences where different shows have interviews and whatnot. So he interviewed her, she's a special guest, and he, like, offhandedly made the suggestion to her that does she still want to do the Mama Rose story, like Gypsy Rose Lee, because she's been trying to do it for a long time. And he goes, oh, I have the Netflix deal, we can just do it. And I thought to myself, well, now you're going to do a musical on Netflix? What are you going to do on FX? Because they just finished doing the, what is it? I was going to call it the Andrew Cunanan story, but it was American Crime Story, the assassination of Gianni Versace, but like here on Entertainment Weekly. And what was so fascinating about this was it was this second season where last season they had done the People versus OJ. And this story was not as well known. And it wasn't about Gianni Versace, played by Edgar Ramirez, or Penelope Cruz playing Donatella, or Ricky Martin playing the hot boyfriend. It was about the killer. And it was not a linear story. So they start out with the murder, and then they go to his history, and they come back to the murder and the funeral. And it's going all over the place. And people weren't responding.
And do you think they weren't responding because the story itself of Andrew Cunanan wasn't appealing? Or was it something about the specific storytelling structure that they used this time, the casting, the acting, which, you know, or it could have been both, but curious what you think, why you think it didn't resonate.
Well, I think because it was a little difficult to watch because it was very violent from the beginning. But in the second, third episode, there were some things he was doing that were really kind of sick. And you didn't expect Ricky Martin and Penelope Cruz to take such a back seat to Darren Criss, who's, you know, not necessarily the bigger star of the 3 or 4 people in the show. And what was, I thought, so intriguing that kept me watching is I didn't know where it was going to go. And I wasn't turned off by the darkness or the gay component, but a lot of people were. I read a few articles saying that, you know, why isn't this getting the buzz it deserves? And part of me thinks once it's on Netflix or it's available to stream, if you watch it all at once, you might have a better understanding, because I know myself, I DVR'd it, so I didn't watch it week to week. Maybe 2 weeks went by or something. I'm like, wait a minute, what year is it now? He's not dead yet? He is dead? And it was complicated, whereas OJ was complicated in a different way. It was very procedural. and you kind of knew some things, and it was a reminder. This was all new information.
Right. We lived the OJ story
Yeah.
for 2 years of our lives, and it was such a huge part of the pop culture storyline for so long. And this is almost a forgotten story, and to be told from the perspective of a villain also may have worked against it.
And I also thought that one thing they did poorly was they made the point that Gianni Versace may not have ever been murdered had the police in Florida caught on to the fact that this same person had killed 2 or 3 other people already. And this was preventable. And the cops just disappeared after episode 2 and came back at the end. And it was such an important point about how the police department didn't investigate at the time because it had a gay component. And to lose someone with the talent of Gianni Versace, it just seemed like there were so many things going on that they maybe needed either one more episode or cut some of it out. Because there were so many great actors. Judith Light was in a couple of episodes and she was magnificent. And Max Greenberg from the New Girl, you couldn't even tell it was him. Yeah. And he played a great part.
Well, I mean, and this is interesting too. The assassination of Gianni Versace, obviously a very dark subject. And dark subjects are things that Ryan Murphy has never shied away from, back from one of his first shows, Nip Tuck on FX. So I'm curious what you think he might do. I mean, FX has given him the free reign to do just about anything he's wanted, but Netflix will have even fewer restraints on him.
Right. Well, we know that he's going to do, the next feud version is going to be Charles and Diana, and we know that the next crime story is going to be about Katrina, and that Sarah Paulson is going to play the lead character. I think, and I hope, to tie it back to the beginning, is maybe he's going to do Funny Girl with Lea Michele, because he did buy the rights, he let them expire, he's got Barbara Streisand's blessing, because if he does Gypsy and he does Funny Girl, he's going to...
Well, it'd be interesting, too, would he do those as film, which you can do on Netflix, or would you break them down into series? And, with Netflix, if he said to Netflix, I only want to do this as 3 episodes, they'd say fine. If he said, I want to do it as 12 episodes, they'd probably say even better.
Thinking about, like, Fanny Brice's life story, taking Funny Girl and Funny Lady and, like, an autobiography on her, or a biography on her or something, and then giving Lea Michele that to work with, I think we have what we want.
Well, I think it's, I'm very curious to see. I'm not as big of a Ryan Murphy stan as Joe is, but I am curious to see what he does with this bankload of money that Netflix has driven up to his house.
And I'm always interested to see what he's going to do with Jessica Lange, because she can do no wrong either. All right, well, that's our TV stance for the moment. So thanks. Maybe you'll come back and we'll talk about some more stuff.